personal hotspot things happening.
We're at 6:17. We'll go ahead and get started. Hey guys, welcome to a pop-up. One of our first pop-up events. Not our first. That was a terrible lie. I'm sorry. This is not our first pop-up event. This is one of the first ones second one since COVID. I don't know. I've lost track of before COVID life and after COVID life. I feel like they're two different things. Or during COVID life, should we say. So I'm Kayla House. I'm the chair of Hustle and Heels, and I've been the chair for a year now. I've been on the committee for 3 years now, and I love being a part of this group and our drive and need to be in the community and help women. So today we invited Mrs. Debbie Jones to discuss some of the topics that are hot pressing right now with schools and COVID. Debbie is the superintendent of Bentonville Schools, and she has more than 25 years of educator experience, having previously served as the assistant commissioner for learning services at the Arkansas Department of Education. Dr. Jones held this position of assistant superintendent for the Bryant Schools District for 7 years, following her principalship. I did not know that was one word, principalship.
I'm sorry.
At Bryant High School. She worked as a teacher, assistant principal, and secondary director in the Pulaski County Special School District. By the way, guys, I've got a kindergartner and I'm learning new things. It's bad. It's bad that I have to admit that. Her academic career has led her to the highest credentials attainable for the educator. Dr. Jones received a Bachelor of Science in Education from the University of Arkansas, a Master's of Arts in Secondary Education from the University of Central Arkansas, and a Doctorate of Education from the University of Arkansas in Little Rock. She served on Northwest Arkansas American Heart Association Board of Directors, and has publicly took a stand against vaping after seeing too many students, primarily high school students, become addicted. Earlier this year, she wow, I just lost my place. Legislative language to ensure superintendents across the state have access to student criminal records. Her work represents a tremendous change in policy, allowing schools principals, the necessary knowledge to better protect students in the public school system. And in its last session, the bill was passed into law by the Arkansas State Legislature. She is a CEO to more than 1,200 employees and 18,000 students who proudly call Bentonville Schools home. Dr. Jones and her husband, Dale Jones, are parents to five children. Wow.
That's
and you did all that?
That's intense.
Girl, please. 5?
I'm tired.
I have one and I'm tired. You're traveling, running, reading. I'm just, wow. A good sweet tea in high school football. Man, you sound like an amazing person. You've done way more than with 5 kids. I don't even know how you get out of bed.
Well, look how young you are. You have all of that ahead of you.
I'm not as young as I'm not as young as Heather.
Oh, thank you. I'm curious, who all's there, like in the room with you?
I've got Miss Amanda here. She's on our committee. I have Miss Shelley over here. And that's what we've got right now. So we had some cancellations and, everybody's.
Well, it looks like we can have a good girl talk then. I always have a fancy presentation with talking points, but I would love it best if we wanted to unmute and have a complete conversation, because honestly, you see me stretching my neck. It is a crazy time, isn't it? This whole business of weeks start running together. Is it pre-COVID, post-COVID? It's like we've been in this forever. It's crazy.
I feel like it's like a bad story of Groundhog Day.
Over.
It's like there's no end.
We just keep in the same situation over and over again. Like you wake up to the same Groundhog Day of like, okay, let's force our kindergartners to put masks on. And, my kindergartner wears it like this most of the time, or, like this, because he thinks it's funny. And I'd
like for them to double as headbands.
Yeah. I think we have all kinds of creative uses for those, but I am shocked they're doing as well as they are with them.
you know, my child does not complain about it one bit, and he wears it all day. And they have mask breaks and all of that, and the teacher is very accommodating and giving them masks. They have like a free zone in the classroom. But, you know, for being 5, I think I'm lucky because this was his first year of school, so he didn't know any different.
That's right. They don't. K-12, it's crazy how good it is as far as the mask going is. So I see that we have, like, I'm curious to know, like, what does everybody do there? We have 6 participants on. Could they shout out, like, who they work with?
Absolutely.
Or
Yeah, here, I can ask. So I'll tell you, so I'm a residential realtor in Northwest Arkansas. So obviously, because I live in Northwest Arkansas, that should be obvious. So I peddle houses, and my last name's House. It works for me. And then I've got Amanda over here with me.
I'm also a residential and commercial realtor, but I'm also a small business owner. I do small, like, custom gifts and gift baskets.
very sweet.
That's very, I'm passionate about lots of things, but yeah.
Hi, Debbie. Shelley Summers. I work for the Chamber of Commerce here in Rogers.
Hi, Shelley.
She's the magic behind all this.
Very true.
She's what keeps me together.
Didn't work for us today.
Hey, we're here.
Stop that. It's fine.
Brittany's in her car.
Brittany, why don't you go ahead and tell us?
I'm sorry, I am at my son's football practice, so I am sitting in the car. But I'm Brittany Gully, and I work for Welcome Health. It's a nonprofit health clinic providing free medical and dental care for low-income families.
Wonderful.
That's awesome.
I've been there in my car. I've been to lots of baseball games when I was finishing my dissertation, and everyone thought I was completely unsociable and rude, but I just was trying to get all my work done, sitting off by myself in my lawn chair. So I've been there. You do what you have to do.
How about you, Miss Holly?
Sorry, my dogs are going nuts. My husband's mowing, so they're barking at him. I am also a residential real estate agent in Northwest Arkansas, and that's it. I've been on the committee.
Took me a lot, so I know Holly.
And she's about
She
to have
should also
a
say
baby.
that she is about to have a baby.
I wondered about that.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, Yolanda. Hi.
Hey, so I'm Yolanda, and I'm a baker. So I'm the owner of Yolanda's Cakes, and I bake homemade dessert cakes.
Wonderful. Yum. I'm a big fan. Brittany.
We talked to Brittany, so we got Lisa.
Okay.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm Lisa, and I own Lisa's Three Wishes Travel. So I'm a travel agent.
Sweet.
How's the business of travel agents right now? Is that a little bit different, or is it coming around
Actually,
a little bit?
the last 2 months I've done better than last year. So people are ready to leave the country.
When that opens up, your business is going to blow up because people cannot wait to travel.
Well, if we could just get the cruise lines to cruise and the hurricanes to quit blowing, we'd be good.
Yeah. All right. Do we have anybody else?
I think that's everybody we got right now.
Okay. I'm going to share a few little slides that I brought, tell you a little bit about myself, but please don't hesitate to speak up. I'll watch the chat box or just interrupt me. It won't bother me at all. I would much prefer to see you in person, but under the circumstances, you probably don't want to see me in person. I'm not positive, but just tonight, we did close our office for 2 weeks because we've had a little outbreak just in my admin office. And so I will be staying away from people just for extra precaution. So it's crazy. It changes day by day. Can you see my screen now? Leading and living in crisis. Okay, good. Let's see if I can get it to move along over here. All right. So here's my story. I always share this picture with the crooked glasses because it humbles me, number one, as if the wrinkles every day are not already enough to humble me. And those spring up on you in a hurry, don't they? And I just wonder, what was my mom thinking when she cut my bangs like that? Every time I see the picture. But it also reminds me, I had a childhood that I think it was a great childhood, not one where I was given everything, not one where I was in dance and ballet and everything. I was an athlete. We played basketball, we played softball, but it was a very different life. I grew up in Charleston, Arkansas. If you know where that is, it's a small hometown, an hour and a half south of here. And hardworking parents and parents that had high expectations for all three girls. I have two sisters, and we always had jobs. We were expected to do those. We would never consider talking back to our parents. It was just an incredible life to really learn some standards. And I think that the lessons I learned is a really good work ethic. My parents never checked my grades. My parents would not have gone to a parent-teacher conference. They didn't need to. They just knew that all three of us just did what we were supposed to do. And I wish that I could package that as a parenting skill, whatever they did, and share that with families, because I know it's a struggle. And I have a blended family. When you saw 5 kids, I'll show you in just a minute. But when I really sympathize with parents when they have kids that are in junior high and high school and they can't get them to do their work. It is just a challenge, and parents feel very hopeless sometimes at that. And the things that I tell my daughters who are older, and hopefully won't be too long until they start marrying and having children, training starts early. And that accountability, it has to start early, because many times when it's high school and the parents say, I can't get them to sign on to do their virtual work, they mean it. They've lost control. They really can't do that. And that's a very sad place to be. So this is my blended family. This was last Christmas. The 3 in the middle are mine. They're older. The one in the middle is 31. She just turned 31 in July. She's an occupational therapist. The one on the left is a crazy little artsy engineer. She doesn't look like an engineer, and she is very crazy. And my son in the plaid is an engineer, and he's in Kansas City. The other daughter's in Dallas. The 2 on the end, they're perfect little bookends. They're my stepchildren, and they moved in with us several years ago. And Ashlyn on the left holding Sophie, the little white dog. She's in school. She's in college, sophomore in college. And then Braden, he's the lone one that we have at home, and he turned 16 yesterday. And I know you're thinking, what the hell were you doing after you raised your 3 grown children? You had all that freedom, and you went and did it again. And I just have to tell you, I don't know what I was thinking, honestly. My husband's about 5 years younger than I am. That's him. When we married, he still had young children. I never thought I'd be raising them, in all honesty. But I really believe everything happens for a reason. And I think God sent them to me to make me kinder and warmer and more nurturing. And I'm still learning to do that. I will tell you this. I was married the first time 23 years. Catholic, strong Catholic marriage. It was a good marriage for many years, but a bad marriage for many as well. And it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And I have a whole talk about that. Being a female in the business world, going through divorce, and how do you survive? And honestly, you're probably more interested in that story than the leadership story, but it is what it is today. I will say that if you have to go through a divorce, you do get to the other side. And when you get to the other side, you're forever changed. At least I was. And I'm determined that no matter what, nothing comes before my marriage. Nothing comes before my spouse. I'll never be dishonest, and I will always communicate. If something doesn't make me happy, if something doesn't please me, if something is wonderful, I'm a much better communicator today in my marriage. And things that where I can't break down at work, and you can't, he's my rock. He's the one, and everybody has to have that. A partner, a best friend, a spouse, but you have to have that solid rock. And what I mean by the solid rock, it's the person that they always are on your side, even when you're wrong. And you know you're wrong, and they know you're wrong, but they're still going to support you. You know what I'm talking about? That person that does that. And so finally you come to your senses and realize, okay, you were wrong. You make it right. But without that solid person, I don't know how anybody survives. If you look at the headlines, open up. This was just like yesterday when I wrote the PowerPoint. I just visited a few sites, and everything is crisis. If you look at any of your social media or any of the news sources, it's mostly COVID, 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 right? And none of it's good news. It's always depressing. If it's not COVID, it's politics, and it's all depressing. So how do you survive? You have to determine whether you're a leader or whether you're a manager. And those are two very different things. And I believe in that quote, management is doing things right, and leadership is doing the right things. Does anyone want to, I'm a teacher naturally, so I'm going to ask you questions, and if you don't speak up, I'm going to call on you because I can see your name. Does anyone want to speak up or chat? What do they think that whole little quote means? I don't know that I can see the chat box, to be honest. You may have to call it out to me because I don't have access to the chat box while I'm sharing. What do y'all think that means? Kayla, I'm going to call on you because I know your kindergartner would raise his hand right now.
I'm not sure he would. He's pretty shy. I think, so I've been doing a lot of leadership training recently and going over like the John Maxwell stuff and things like that with my, the owner of the company that I work for. And I think leadership and what this is like management is you're basically being told to do the right thing, but leadership is defining the right thing.
Right. Like managers right now running school districts or running businesses are probably not all that successful. They're following what the other guys are doing because they're waiting for someone to write the manual, write the guidebook, write the reopening plan. Leaders are the ones saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. There's no book for it. There's no answer. And in these times, you have to make decisions pretty quickly. And you have to have that instinct of what the right thing is to do. Right now, when we're in crisis like that, you know, our human brains are trained to focus on the immediate threat. It's at fight or flight syndrome. That's how genetically we're built. We can't do that if we're leaders. We have to look at the whole picture. And I'll look at it in the district as right now, and it may be a year, it may be 2 years. It is, I'm the captain of the ship, and it's my job to get all my people on the other side of the treacherous river. And there are lots of currents to deal with right now, but I look at it as I want everyone to make it to the other side. And I'll be honest, when I was dealing with my divorce, I was just like, let me get on the other side of this. Just let me get on the other side of this and survive. And this crisis is very much like that. You know, the crisis can be like thrilling, invigorating in a way because it's such a change and you're having to make so many decisions. Let me tell you a story. My sister, my older sister, and everyone loves Aunt Diane. She's the best person in the world that I know. All my kids always wanted to go spend the night with Aunt Diane. Why? Because you open up her pantry and she has every kind of Little Debbie known to man. Every snack cake, her pantry is stuffed full of the best junk food ever.
It's like dating a single mom.
What?
I heard that's what it's like dating a single mom.
Exactly. And so I called her because my mom and dad lived near her, and I said, okay, you remember when this started and we were all worried about food? Everybody was running to the store getting as much meat and everything as you could. I'm like, okay, Diane, have y'all stocked up? Are you ready in the event that we have to close down? And she's like, are you kidding? This is the moment I've been preparing for my whole life. And everybody in my family is like, yes, this is what you're made for, because it couldn't be more true. But you know, in a way, the crisis and the planning is invigorating. And some leaders will get into the moment and think they have to suddenly do everything. Be super bossy, take care, micromanage everybody. And if you run a big organization, you simply cannot do that. You have to have your team of smart people. You have to make sure that they're clear in their direction and you let them do their jobs. And that's been critically important for us to successfully reopen. To close, let me tell you about this whole reopening and closing story. Okay, last February, I was watching the news and you kept seeing things of China and this virus. And I started to get a little bit suspicious, and I listened to every news report I could get. And every Monday morning, we have a cabinet meeting with my leadership. It's a top leadership, 10 people, including me, in the district. And we cover everything from technology, the person that runs all the technology, finance, student services, communications. Okay, 10 of those people, and they all have really big divisions. Okay, and so I started out coming in and saying, hey, are y'all watching this thing going on in China? Yeah. And then I started watching more and getting more serious. I said, do y'all think that really we need to take this seriously? And I got no response. Nobody was buying. I think that they were calling me the crazy lady, you know, the crazy conspiracy theorist lady. And then it started getting more serious, and I'm like, all right, guys, I think we're going to have to put together some plans if we have to go virtual. And I remember this, and it's one of my smart, great people, but politics were so intertwined with the time. And this person said, oh, this is just another flu. And when I get mad, my face turns red. People immediately know. And it was the last straw. And I'm like, okay, you say it's the flu. The WHO says it's a pandemic. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go with the World Health Organization, and we're going to prepare for the worst. We may not have to close. We don't know, but we're going to be prepared if we do have to close. And you know, that was a super scary time for me, because I know that I have brilliant people on my cabinet, and I knew in the back of my mind that there was a chance I was completely wrong. And that's what a leader has to do. You have to, in the face of challenges, when you don't even know if you have to go with your gut. Now, had I been wrong, we would have spent extra money. We would have spent a lot of personnel time, but if we didn't do the things we did, it would have been chaos for the district. Let me give you an example. Shortly after that, behind that, I said, okay, 1-to-1, does everybody have a computer at home? And we did 7 through 12, but none of our elementary or middle school kids did, and that's 10,000 kids. But they all had their Chromebook carts in their classroom, but they were all zip tied in to keep them in place, all the charger cart. And so just cutting those out of their charger carts took a full day for one person for every single school. So that's the That's what we're talking about, because we have so many kids, 18,000 kids. Doing anything small takes a long time. I said, go ahead, cut them out, because we have to prepare. We sent 10,000 Chromebooks home through bus, with kindergartners, through all kids. We did not lose one Chromebook on a Friday afternoon. On Sunday, the governor said we're closing schools. You won't be going back Monday. And if we hadn't have done that, then we would have had all this more exposure of people having to go through and try to figure out a logistics plan for picking up. But what I'm saying with all of this, if you're the leader, you have to make risky decisions sometimes, and you have to trust your instinct, even if there's not another soul out there that's agreeing with you. And that's a scary place to be. I don't know if y'all will be interested in this or not, but you might be. I'll show a little bit of it. I didn't know exactly the crowd that we would have today, but I wanted to tell you about some of the best known leaders and some of the worst. And I'm going to be super quick. Looking at my time, I may skip through this. I'll share it with you and you can watch it. Are y'all all so young you don't remember the BP oil spill? Do you remember?
We're not that young.
I'm 38.
I'm 33.
Y'all just look so young.
Glasses. And
I
height.
love it. I love it. So the CEO of BP with the oil spill is renowned as being one of the weakest leaders ever. And it's because after this happened, he didn't take accountability. He tried to he wasn't being transparent. He was underestimating the whole scenario, was trying to downplay it, and it was just such a significant thing. And then he started blaming others. This little skit, I'll play just a little bit and then I'll cut it off early. You'll get the general idea. Let's see if you can hear it.
Thanks for your time.
Good to be talking to you. Good evening.
Now, this oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, can you tell us what happened?
Yes, we're talking about an offshore oil rig, which is, of course, a large device for pumping oil out of an oil field under the sea floor.
Sure. And what happens if something goes wrong?
Well, we're trying to figure that out at the moment.
No, I mean before you start. What are the regulations
You're not
for
going to
dealing
have
with
a
that
problem. You're not going to have a problem before you start.
Yeah, but what are the regulations?
The what?
Regulations.
Can you Google something for me quickly? Relegations?
No, regulations.
Regulations? Well, Google them both.
This is before you start.
No, you're not going to have an accident before you start. I mean, it's starting that causes the problem. There is no problem before you start. It's beautiful before you start.
So you're saying is that the accidents only happen when you get going?
That's the rule.
So what happened?
Well, in this case, there was a large explosion. The rig caught fire. 20 million gallons of crude oil spilled into the sea, and then the rig sank. I mean, everything happened.
So what did you do?
Well, first things first, obviously. The first thing to do in an event like that is to underestimate the problem.
What? Underestimate the problem?
Yes,
Why would
because
you
we
do
don't
that?
want people to panic. I mean, you've got to calm people down. A lot of people get very worried.
Why do they get worried?
Well, because the sea is filling with oil. A lot of people are very sentimental about the sea.
But understating the problem, surely not a solution.
Well, no, not to that problem, but first things first.
So what was solution number two?
Solution number two was to acknowledge the magnitude of the problem, but to point out that it's certainly not BP's fault. This is not our fault.
Whose fault is it?
I don't know, someone else, the bloke who built the wing nuts or something.
The solution doesn't sound very good.
That wasn't one of our better ones, but the next one was brilliant. We dropped a kind of shopping centre over the hull.
An underwater shopping centre?
Underwater shopping centre. We fitted it over the hull.
And did that work?
No, but it was a brilliant idea.
In what sense was it brilliant?
Well, we know that doesn't work. We won't be trying that again.
What was the fourth solution?
Fourth solution is to offer to help with the clean-up. We can help there.
Hang on a second. How do you mean help? Shouldn't you be doing the clean-up? I mean, well, you're the one getting the oil out of the ocean.
We're not getting the oil out of the ocean. That's useless, that oil. How do you get oil out of the sea? We've been trying for a week. You can't be done. It's useless.
Okay, so what about the fifth solution?
So you get the general idea there. He demonstrates everything wrong in a leader. Not taking accountability, blaming someone else, not being transparent. And I think we knew very well, we've dealt with enough crisis in the district to know you have to be transparent. And this is the next one, deliberate communication. You have to be very deliberate about telling the story. And this was probably the most important thing that we had to do. Actually, before we ever dismissed, I started communicating, emailing with parents weekly. And I don't normally do that with the parents. Normally, you'll hear from your school principal, from your teacher, but we did centralize communications in this case. And because we wanted consistent, it was a health matter, and we wanted everyone hearing the same consistent message across the district. And so that continued. It gave them warning saying, should we have to dismiss? And we were just saying we were watching it closely. These are the things that we're doing in school. And then the next week it would be new information. And so if you're not clear with your communication, someone's going to tell your story. They're going to make up a story. It's going to be worse than the truth. And so being transparent and just telling the truth is really important. I found that, he talks about people will panic. The more information they have, it diminishes their fear. We found this with teachers. You can expect it was very scary for teachers to come back to work. If you remember the national headlines, teachers, there was another teacher that died nationally. In the last couple of weeks, we've had an Arkansas teacher die. We've had a superintendent die in the last couple of weeks in Arkansas. You saw many states that didn't return to school out of fear. And so it was realistic to think that teachers would have fear being in an enclosed room with 20 kids. And so we shared every piece of information. We didn't say you're going to be completely safe. We said these are all the things that we are doing to mitigate, and these are the extra things you're going to have to do. And the sad part is, when you're the leader, you have to communicate things that people don't want to hear sometimes. Just this experience through COVID, and there were not small issues. We had to communicate to graduates. You're not going to have a graduation, a typical graduation. A lot of parents were very unhappy about that. It turned out we had a very nice walkthrough tape graduation with video, and some parents even loved it more. But at the time previous to that, it's the end of the world. We had to communicate to people, I'm sorry, you have to wear face coverings. And we started that early before the governor ever made it a requirement, which was a huge political battle. We wanted to tell parents early so that they could start working with their kids at home and get accustomed to it. I had to tell people, I'm sorry, teachers, in addition to teaching, you're going to have to disinfect your room every time a class changes. And that's extra work they had to do. I had to say, I'm sorry, if you didn't meet the deadline for registration, you can't switch. If you were virtual, you can't come back. If you're blended, you can't go virtual. And that was very popular, But you have to be able to communicate. And sometimes I'd love to give people their way all the time, but sometimes you absolutely can't unless you bring chaos to your system. And we couldn't be in a constant state of rescheduling because it would then throw chaos into the other student's schedule. And so calm with a sprinkle of bounded optimism. You're probably asking, what's bounded optimism? It's confidence with a little bit of realism. I know that this is a pandemic. I know that honestly, people that have lots of health conditions may not fare well. I know that it can be life-threatening. But also, we have to be calm. We have to be authentic and honest. But if you're crying and upset and in chaos, your people will follow you. And so you will break down. There will be times that you're worried. I'll be honest. I always had that little place in the back of my mind saying, is this the right thing to do to bring everybody back? I didn't have a choice. The governor said we're coming back. But until the first week of school, when I actually got out and saw kids and teachers in their classrooms, I didn't know for sure. When I saw them there, I'm like, yes, this was absolutely the right thing to do. And so you do always have to be calm and you have to be optimistic, but it's not that Pollyanna stuff. you have to recognize the threat so that you can relate to your teachers and you can understand what they're really feeling. And then most importantly, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you're a baker, if you're a real estate agent, if you work with the health area, you have to remember your people. You have to remember the human element. Because if you, and think about this as leaders, we're trained to look at data. You are trained to look at how many houses you sell, right? Look at the percentages you bring in, compare it with the previous month. You're looking at the bottom line. Yolanda looking at the dollar. Can I pay my rent this much? How many cakes am I selling? In school, I look at test scores. I look at graduation rates, at AP scores, IB scores. There are so many pieces of data. This is the first time in 27 years of education that I said academic achievement is not number one this year. Health and safety is number one. Health and safety of our staff and health and safety of our students. Do the best you can, but you have to be safe. And I think that you have to take care of your people. And if you don't, then, well, if you do, if you take care of your people and they know you're genuine and you care and you'll listen to them, because you can't possibly have all the answers, the business will take care of itself. Those test scores will take care of themselves because our teachers are going to do everything possible to catch kids out that get behind. And then I really, really believe in this. You know, I could retire next year if I wanted to. I'm not going to probably. But my goal is on that team that I could walk out. I could get COVID and be out for 2 weeks. And my team's so strong, they could run it. They could run it without me. Why? Because they've been put in situations where they get to make decisions, where they can help manage the business and they can make decisions on their own. And so I think we all, especially as we get older in our careers, we owe it to everybody else to share the power and watch them shine, put them out there to do presentations and then cheer them on. And that, if I had in my professional career right now, that's probably one of my priorities at the very top, is lifting the other people up that I work with. So the rest of the time, which is short, I can answer any questions.
I muted. If anybody has any questions, they can either just ask them or type them out to me, whichever one's easiest for you. I figure it's probably easier just to ask. So how are you holding up, like, mentally through all this?
Well, let me stop share my screen. I have 3 screens going right here.
That's very traditional of a female.
Yeah. Well, do you see my tennis shoes? I was going to run right before I did this presentation. I had plans to get out and get an hour in for running. And then we had our 11th positive case pop in my office. And so we've been watching it, and we're closing down tomorrow for 2 weeks. And so I had to call a little meeting with 2 other people and say, okay, what is absolutely not going to get done if we close this building? And there are a million different things that we do over here. Fingerprinting, we can't let certifications lapse, that sort of thing. And so we worked through all those little details, and no time for running. I tried to run. I've started, even if it's just a short little amount of time before I get ready in the morning, run the neighborhood and get 2 miles in, and that's good enough. And I try to eat healthy. I know this is the custodian who's going to come spray my office with cleaner. Come in. So trying. I'll take care of it. Thank you. All right, good night. I was on with my board the other night, and they came in to spray the whole air purifier thing. So you have to slow down, enjoy people. I try to exercise, I try to eat healthy, and this is not the end of the world. We're going to make it through this, and you just have to keep that big perspective and don't panic. Get your people to the other side. It may be a year, but we're going to get there. It'll pass.
You've become a cheerleader through all this.
Yeah, you do. You have to focus on nurturing other people more than you ever did before. And I'll be honest, I have to really concentrate at that because I wasn't raised to be a nurturer. I was raised hard. And so I really have to concentrate at that.
Well, I think you're doing it beautifully. Because I can't imagine being in your shoes, even just on my side. I deal with it. Somebody in a house was in a house that tested positive, and then you're calling, what's the protocol, and you're calling all the agents that showed the house, and then you've got all of these things, and it's you're sanitizing stuff and doing so. Like I don't really know the protocol for half the stuff I'm trying to navigate through right now. I'm like, okay, we all just need to be safe, do the best that we can with what we've got, and move forward, because we're also in one of the busiest real estate seasons we've had too. Like, we're up from last August. Was that the last month? September? I don't have September's numbers. Our August was up 15%.
I believe it.
But our inventory is down 22%. So it's kind of like a fiasco. Like, there's a house that pops up, 30 people are writing offers on it.
I've thought about this. Do you think it's because people are working from home and they have time to get it all cleaned up and they're like, I'm ready to sell now?
A lot of people have, we've had a lot of transplants moved here because of COVID. I've had several out-of-state clients move here because they didn't like the way their governor handled the situation, the way their state shut down a certain way. And they're working from home and they don't have to be there anymore. I had a Portland client that moved here from Portland, obviously, and they didn't like all the protesting that was happening and all the stuff with the police and the politics. So they were like, we're out of there. And they actually came here for 2 days. I drove them around. I showed them all of the areas, and they bought a house without seeing it. They actually still have not seen it. We closed last week, and they'll be in here, and it's a flip house too. So we're getting ready to start gutting it. They'll be here next weekend to see it for the first time.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So people, I've had a lot of California, Florida. I've got Ohio people all over the place that they don't want to be there anymore.
Another reason that Northwest Arkansas is so great. It's safe. It's good schools, good quality of life,
Well, and we have so many outdoor options, with our biking trails and all of that. It's just been, it's a great area to live. And I hear people say all the time that they think that our real estate market is topped out. And I think that they're sadly mistaken, because I think Northwest Arkansas is really going to show everybody what we can do in the next 5 to 10 years.
I think it will keep growing. I think all indications are it's going to be really strong. We have we hire new people all the time from all over. We have a new teacher from Poland at Evening Star Elementary, and they moved here this year because her husband likes the bike trails. They moved here for the mountain bike trails.
That's great.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
This is a very unique area, and we're very blessed to be here.
Yes, we are.
Hey, Deb. So it's Yolanda. I got a quick question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So on your PowerPoint, you talked about how leaders take most of the blame, but not less credit. So what have been some of your backlash per se that you have encountered as making the decision that maybe didn't go as well as you wanted it to go?
Oh, if I could read some of the hate mail I get, it's insane. This is very emotional, and there's nothing more emotional than their kids. And from backlash, I can move from one crisis to another. Every time you have to make a decision, for example, with Lockmore, I don't know if y'all read it in the paper, it's a non-transport zone because they're close enough to get to their school. Lots of lots of negative, emails, phone calls from that area, and then a year later, it's all okay. And this is the experience we have. When we did not have the graduation, which nobody in Arkansas really had, not with our size, had a real graduation. We were called, and people will post stuff all over. You can't, I don't read social media. I'll post when I'm advertising something good, but I don't read all that stuff. I keep it out. I just build a wall and keep all that stuff out. And I tell my husband, stop reading Facebook. He reads that and Twitter more than I do. And I'm like, and he'll take a picture. It makes him mad when someone makes an ugly post over a face mask about me. And he'll take a snapshot and send it to me. And I said, stop sending that to me. I don't read it for a purpose. And I just keep it out. So it depends on the day. I could go from one week to another, but I always have something. And it's when you can't give people their way. And you just can't all the time.
This isn't Burger King. You can't have it your way.
And I promise you, this year we're trying every way we can to be flexible. But there are some times when it's absolutely a health matter, or like people were so mad over face mask if that was their political stance, that it was insane.